Irises are such a pleasure to grow. They provide years of beautiful flowers. They have almost no water needs and very, very little maintenance. The only thing they need is to be divided periodically. This is a really simple task that any gardener can achieve, and I'm going to show you how to do it. These are some iris that I bought several years ago at a local grower. Some years ago I divided them, which gave me more rhizomes that I could plant, and I added them to this part of my garden. And now, as you can see, they're very crowded. So there's two times in your plant's life to think about when the dividing happens. One, late in the season when they're withered, they've already flowered, they're going into dormancy. And when they're crowded, such as these are. Generally you would want the plants about 6 to 8 inches apart. The best time to do this is in the fall. When it's time to divide your iris, you just need a few common, simple gardening tools. These are my shears that I cleaned and sanitized this morning. You're going to need something to move the ground cover out of the way with, so just basically a rake, not a big deal. And then you'll need something to dig with. This is my favorite digging tool. I will show you why this works so well. But you can also just use a common spade-shaped shovel. The very first thing you'll want to do is to remove any ground cover that is around your rhizomes. Mine have got just grass clippings, so I'm going to rake them all out of the way. That way I'll be able to see the rhizomes and I'll have some space for digging. The correct name for this plant's propagating part is rhizome. That's this hard piece of root looking thing. You plant them at soil level, as you can see here. This part is the old one. It doesn't have any leaves because it didn't flower this year. This was this year's growth. I've now pulled back the ground cover materials on the ones I'm going to divide. This clump on the left, as you can see, is very dense, so it needs to be thinned out. These on the right were divided more recently, and they do not need thinning. They need some trimming, and we'll do that in another part of the video. When you start to dig up the rhizome, you need to be careful to not damage it. It is the growing part of the plant. It's fairly close to the surface, like we said, but it also can be large under the ground. So you want to be about, a hand's breadth, 6 to 10 inches from where you think the rhizome is. So you can dig it up and get a lot of roots and not cause a lot of damage. Now I'm going to dig. I'm going to make a big circle around my clump of rhizomes, and my hope is to bring up rhizomes and roots without doing a lot of damage. All right, so I've loosened all the way around. I have a rather enormous root ball. You're gonna see me struggling here a bit because I'm gonna try and get this up in one piece, and then I'm gonna divide the rhizomes and trim them up and show you how to do that. Oh, it's breaking up pretty good actually. Oh, and I put this burlap here just to kind of help me see things better and keep track of the dirt so I don't have all the dirt down in my ground cover. There. So now I'm going to start breaking the soil away. I have very heavy clay soil here. It sometimes really sticks like a rock. I'm just going to start working it off, doing my best to be gentle with the roots. You can totally see all these roots here. And as we get in here closer, we'll get some rhizomes. It's really crumbling nice. So I've got a lovely clump here. This piece up here that's brown and not got any bright green on it, that's the first rhizome I planted some years ago. And now it's died and dead. We're gonna pull that off. And these with the vibrant green foliage, we're gonna save those. I'm gonna rinse off the dirt. Now we get into the details of dividing. This one is separated. I'm gonna set it aside. I want to get this one. You can see this bright green growth. We know there's a nice rhizome in there. I'm going to separate it from the dead one. Remember, this one doesn't have any growth. Just kind of pull it gently apart. You can see the roots coming apart, just gently, gently. There, new, trash. So that was 2 rhizomes and 1 dead piece. On this big clump now, I'm just going to keep pulling and dividing, doing my best to be gentle so that I can retain as many roots that are healthy as possible and thinning off the dead parts. The really important thing to remember when you're working with the rhizomes is to don't be afraid. You can't do anything wrong here. If you don't divide these, they're going to stop flowering because they're just too crowded. You need to divide them to give the fresh, young, vigorous bulbs room to grow and to divide their plants. They always want to make more. And if you damage some, you're still going to be better off than you were. Here's another good example. You can see all this brownness in here. It comes down and it's got roots, but this is brown. It doesn't have anything green on it. So this is not going to have any viable plant material. As happens typically, you do the easy parts first. Now this clump is just really sticking together. So I'm going to take everything out of my bucket and put this in the bucket and let it soak for a little bit. So this is where I've been washing the dirt off and softening things. Just put the whole thing in. Washing off that little extra dirt really helped release because the clay clods were holding the roots together. So some of the rhizomes are big and some are little. You have to look real closely here, but you can see there's this little dead bump. I'm going to pop off that dead bump. This will live. It's got a fan. This is all just dead, previous year's growth. This is a really good chunk of dead. This one's dead. This one's dead. I'm just going to pull these off of my nice live green one. So this is dead. No green fan. This is alive. Bright green fan. Oh, look, he's just going to fall off of there now. And now we're down to one fan over here and one dead clump. So sometimes I would do this at a table over on the in the patio area, but this is better for the video right here at the digging spot to let you see what we've done. So I'm just picking up rhizome after rhizome. This one, I found a little dead piece here. See how there's a clump of rhizome, no green. I'm going to tease it out, put it in the discard pile. Take off anything that's old. And then my long straps, I'm going to cut to about 6 inches. Some cut really easily. If you cut them, and it doesn't work good, retrim them lower so you have a clean cut. Set it aside. So now I have a big pile of rhizomes that I have dug up, and I have trimmed off the dead leaves, and I have removed last year's old dead rhizomes. These are just clumps of dead. Now I'm going to look at the roots, and I'm amazed. My roots are in really good shape. You may often find some that are dead. They'll be obviously dead. They'll be brown. Also, if you have any that are broken, these came up really nice and clean. I'm going to take them off for length so that they're a little easier to plant. About like so. This one has some bark integrated with its roots, so I'm going to cut that out. When you initially bought your iris, the package probably had its name on it. That was great. If you're responsible, you kept track of that. I didn't. But if you want to do that with your irises, and especially as you get more varieties, you can just write directly on it. Just write it on the strap. It will not hurt your iris. I think this one was Sultan, so I can write on there. Let it dry in the garage over the winter, and then I'll know what it is. So I've just dug the irises out of this area, but I still want to have irises here. Ideally, maybe you would want to let them dry for a few months. I'm just going to stick these back in. I'm going to use this opportunity to remove some rocks from the hole that I see. I'm going to put my bulbs back in, or my rhizomes back in, about 8 inches apart, because I know that they love it here and they're going to grow really fast and thick. And iris rhizomes like to be on the surface, so they're super easy to plant. You just make a nice place for all those roots that we saved. You do not amend the soil. and you put them back in the ground. I have the soil here on top of my burlap so I can easily access it to get back to covering the roots on my rhizomes. So you'll notice this one is not at soil level anymore. While I was putting my soil in, he got buried too much. So I've got his roots covered, but I'm going to lift him back up. To finish up, I'm going to gather all the planting material I'm getting rid of, the dead rhizomes and last year's leaves. Then I'm going to shake all the dirt on my burlap back onto my plants, make sure that the rhizomes are still exposed, and then I will rake the bark back over everything. So these irises have been in a couple of years. They're doing great. They're not yet crowded. They're very healthy. You don't have to do anything with them, but since I'm working out here today, I'm going to go ahead and trim off the dead parts because it'll just make my garden look more tidy. So nip them off as close down to the bulb as I can. And then you're also going to cut the foliage off at about 6 inches, like we did with the ones that we dug up. And again, if you get a soft cut, go back and cut lower so that you have a good healthy cut. This drop, he's pretty dead and brown. I'm going to take him off down at the rhizome. Here you can see my iris bed ready for the winter. We have thinned out a thick clump, replanted 4 rhizomes in the same space, and then the bulbs that were undisturbed, we have cut off all of the dead growth and trimmed down the leaves. You really can't go wrong here because, like I said, if you don't thin them, they're gonna stop blooming. So give it a try. So this rhizome is ready to be stored for the winter, and I'm gonna do that by putting it in shavings. You can buy shavings at a garden supply or on farm supply. Cardboard box works fine. I don't have a cardboard box today. I'm gonna use this bucket. I'm gonna put in a good layer of shavings. I wanna be careful of the roots. Put this down in here. Put some shavings in between because I don't want, when I go to pull these out, for the roots to have dried to each other. Always being careful of the roots. Maybe give them a little twist, that can help. Just keep them kind of collected up. These iris are now ready to go to sleep for the winter. They'll stay dry, they won't mold, they won't start to grow. Next March, find yourself a sunny spot in your garden where you'd like some color. Loosen the soil a little bit, take off the shavings, put the roots into the soil, leave the rhizome at soil level, just showing up above a little bit. You really want it to show. Cover the roots up with your local soil. You don't need to amend it all. Tamp it down, water, and wait. Thank you for watching our video. We are UC Master Gardeners of San Luis Obispo County. If you have gardening questions, you can reach us through the email link below. I've also included some helpful links to other gardening topics that are related to this, like how to clean your tools and how to amend your soil. Thanks so much.